Um, so I think we're going to get this show started. Hello, everybody. My name is Ben. Andrew is also on the call. We're the Boba Guys. We're the founders of Boba Guys. We have Anna and Monica as well from Boba Guys, and they're going to be helping out on the chat. I know that this is a big room. We have 100 people here. There might be more people joining. Hopefully, it's not capped at 100. But this is one of the bigger groups. So we're super excited to have you guys here today. I want to remind you that, again, this is being recorded so that you can play it back. And those that didn't get to join the tutorial, you can come back and rewatch it. And so this is for everyone at home that didn't get to join this live demo. But let me just share my screen because I actually prepared some slides for you guys. This is the first time we've done a tutorial to the public. We typically do these for companies. We've done all the big Bay Area companies you've probably heard of, but we've never done it to our fans. And so this is a really special one. It's a great way to kind of end the year because we've never really done it. Maybe we'll do more. Hopefully this one does well. But yeah, my name is Ben and Andrew's on the call as well. We started Boba Guys while we were working together at this company called Timbuktu. If you're from the Bay Area, I know not everyone's from the Bay Area because these kind of went all over the US. They're kind of a messenger bag backpack company here in the Bay Area. And we started Boba Guys in 2011. And one of our very first batches of boba was just like yours. We made it in our kitchen. And so it's so funny. 9 years later, we're kind of super full circle. But I want to explain where boba came from because not everyone knows. I think that some people could probably guess it's from Asia, but boba is originally from Taiwan, and it's actually been around since the 80s. Andrew and I grew up drinking boba, and since the 9 years that we've been around, we've seen the entire industry change. Like if you look at these photos on my slide, this is from Tang, and it is, most people will say that they were the ones that really created boba milk tea as we know it. Milk tea has been around super long time, but the act of putting tapioca balls into the drinks, a lot of people say that these guys were the ones that really invented it. And when we, on our book research, when we obviously wrote the book on boba, which I'll talk about in a second, we tried to dig into who really originated it. And it's between these guys and this other place called Hanlin Tea Room. And traditionally, boba was for Asian teenagers. We were one of those ones growing up, and that's how we started. We came across boba. But the reason why we started Boba Guys is because we really wanted to make it for everyone. And I'm looking at thank you everyone that has their cameras on, by the way. You don't have to have a camera on, but it's really awesome for us to be able to peek in and see everyone making their boba. It's so much more interactive. I guess if you're in school right now, everyone says, "Hey, please turn your camera on." So I know you're paying attention. So that's great. Thank you, everybody. And we're credited as being one of the first to, but we were credited as being one of the first to make it for everyone. Boba has been around for a while, but we're one of the first to use premium ingredients. And so the tea that you guys hopefully all got, I think everyone got matcha. Some people got some milk tea. It's from our own tea company, Tea People. So we make almost everything vertically integrated, everything in-house, almost everything vertically integrated. And I think the biggest deal is the boba that you guys got today. Hopefully you guys all got the pack of boba. You made it beforehand. That is from our factory in Hayward, California. And we are the very first to make boba here in the United States. It's called US Boba Co. For those that don't know, you could probably guess 99% of it, boba, comes from Asia, from Taiwan. And we're the first to make it here in the US. It was a really big deal. We've always dreamed about making boba here in the US, but it didn't really happen until we were able to grow some of our stores and really make it worthwhile for us, because a lot of people thought we were crazy. Because building a factory is completely different than opening a store. And there's a lot of benefits to actually making our own boba. One of them is that, we can, it obviously has to go through tighter controls because when you make it stateside, it has to pass all these FDA things. So it's hopefully a lot safer than getting things imported. But the other big benefit is we know what's going in it. We're the boba guys. We're supposed to be the leaders in our industry in terms of, especially when it comes to press, we get hit up a lot. But also, we're able to make it with less preservatives. because it doesn't have to survive that slow boat from Asia anymore, you know, because 99% of it comes from Asia. And when they do, they pack it onto these pallets, and those pallets go into a shipping container, and those shipping containers go onto a huge boat, and that boat has to, you know, survive onto the sea for months until it gets here to the US. And so you have to imagine how much preservatives have to actually go into it for it to get here safely. Otherwise, you get crumbly boba. So we're super proud of that. I think that we still have a long way to go, but all of our stores serve our US Boba Co. boba, and and sort of these kits. And so we're super proud of that. A quick bio about us. Who are these guys that are teaching you how to make boba? You know, Andrew and I actually have very similar backgrounds. I grew up in Texas, in Wharton, Texas, is a very small town. And Andrew grew up in Woodbridge, New Jersey, and we were one of the only Asians in our neighborhood. And so right out of the gates, we were constantly being exposed to other cultures. And our mission at Boba Guys, if you've ever been to our stores, this is our mission store, our very first store. You know, our mission at Boba Guys is to bridge cultures. And when we say that, we don't just mean Asians, getting Asians and non-Asians to drink boba. We also mean getting people young and old. And I'm looking at the gallery. We have all ages here, and it's incredible that we're doing this in 2020. But it also, when we say bridging cultures, we also mean cities and suburbs. You know, like I think that we started in the Mission District, which is kind of hipster central, but you know, now we're in San Carlos, now we're in San Ramon, now we're in kitchens across the U.S., which is really crazy that we can even pull this off in an insane year, I guess. And you know, so we do our best to try to make it as accessible as possible. We do our best to explain it and really tell the story of where things are coming from. And when Andrew gets into the tutorial, you'll learn how nuanced this really is. In our stores, if you've ever been to our stores, you know, we were able to build it to 15 stores without franchising. People, a lot of boba shops do, we don't. Nothing wrong with it. We just like to do things kind of our way. And you know, for those that don't know, we built Boba Guys without taking a lot of VC money. You know, Phil's and Blue Bottle, people always compare us to those guys. We didn't take a big VC round, you know. And so when the pandemic hit, it hit us pretty hard. We, you know, in March when shelter in place, all those things hit, we're still in it. But it hit us really hard. We actually had to lay off 400 people. We went down to 4 employees. And we closed like all 17 locations in a single day. And it was really painful, to be honest. But slowly but surely we were able to rebuild. And we're almost employee wise, we're actually thankful because we're almost back to pre-pandemic levels. We have a few stores still closed, and we're closed in New York for now. But we feel really fortunate because we were able to do things like these kits. Our e-commerce has shot through the roof. So thank you everyone that's ever bought tea from us. And even our stores, we've had this kind of Boba Guys Express model. And so there's contactless, you order online. You don't have to sit in lines to get our drinks. And so it's a lot safer. And it's hopefully the way forward until we can all get back to normal or some type of normal. And so I just wanted to close with this video, which is about the Boba book. And I think that so much of what we do has been culminated into the thing that we took 2 years to write. It came out this year. You know, these tutorials are what we're supposed to do on a book tour. So we were supposed to meet fans like you guys, just crisscrossing the US. Anna had all of these cities lined up that we were going to visit, and we were going to teach people how to make boba. And so I guess in a way we still delivered on that promise. We're just doing it over Zoom now. And, and we're super excited. It's the first of its kind. It's from a mainstream Western publisher, Penguin Random House. We have the same editor as Chrissy Teigen. His name is Francis Lamb. He's a rock star. And most of the recipes are from our travels, but also they reflect more of a global taste that we try to bring to our stores. So if you've ever been in our stores and ordered a Korean banana milk and you're like, oh yeah, I grew up drinking that, or any of our plethora of drinks that we launch in the spring, summer, fall, winter, a lot of those are more of a global taste. And I think as Americans, you know, we're obviously Americans. I think that we sometimes think inside of our own worlds as Americans when there is this vast, rich world outside. And so some of the most exciting concepts are coming from Asia. And so we really look to Asia for a lot of it, a lot of inspiration, even history. And so thank you for having us here today. I'm so excited that there's over 100 people onto this. We've never ever done it publicly. We've only done it for companies so far. And so this is a good one because I'm excited to be able to teach you guys how to make boba. Andrew's about to do the tutorial. I'm gonna put myself on mute, but I'll be in the chat, so will Monica and Anna. So if you have any questions and you're following along and you need some clarification, type it in the chat. We'll be there to help you. And then we're gonna save the last 5-10 minutes for some Q&A, because I wanna hear some awesome questions. I'm sure you guys have them. And I'm gonna kick it over to Andrew. So thank you for the intro and listening, and I'll see you in the Q&A.
Awesome. It's so good to see everyone. We haven't been able to see anyone in such a long time. It's kind of weird. I think we've been letting our team, who I think you have all been getting to know, Anna, Freezy, Caleb, Jesse, people across kind of all our team, to kind of give them kind of the spotlight over the years, because we've been around for 9 years. So it's weird to be in front of camera. I will say, you know, as Ben alluded to, this has been such a weird year. And so you're going to get a version. I modified a little bit of, we have a script. There is like an outline that we do. So obviously this is being recorded just in case we can watch it back and see what we can do better. But, you know, ultimately the goal of this was to make you guys all Bobaristas. We're taking a modified version of what we taught. Basically, if you take what we taught in stores with what we were going to do in our book tour, with what we're doing for companies now, it's kind of what you're seeing today. So you're going to see all of that. So let's get started. Let's make sure everybody has everything they need. If you have questions, I think Ben said that our team is on. We did realize something. We messed up on Zoom. We used an account that actually only had 100 people. So if you have friends that are trying to get in, I think we now have to make this up because we're already getting people pinging us. So I think we might have to do this again. We'll figure out how to make it special. Maybe we'll do a second recipe next time. But we also are doing this just so people understand. I was a part of a campaign called Good to Vote, where we, if you had X amount of people who registered to vote back when there was an election in 2000, well, earlier this year, in November, if you had 250, I think, we promised that we'd do something for free to the public. And this is also part of that. So if anything, you're going to now get a 2-for-1. So Anna and I have been working in the background, realizing our Zoom didn't work. So no worries. That's us being really scrappy. Although Ben usually gets us right, but I think he misspoke. Ben, I don't know if you caught yourself. We have not taken VC money, not even a little bit. We have not taken anything. So it's he said a little bit. We actually have never taken VC money, just to be really clear. We are in the middle of raising it. That is probably what Ben is alluding. We may take money. You guys are probably one of the first to know. We haven't gotten any offers really, but I think everybody thinks we're so big, so we have to figure out how to stabilize. That's a whole separate story. So let's get started. The material that we're going to use is from 3 of my favorite books. One is, have you anybody read this one? It's called The History of the World in 6 Glasses by Tom Standage. It's a really good book. It's a bestseller. It's really about how there's like different glasses and beverages in the world, right? Wine, wine, coffee, tea, beer. So it kind of explains how human civilization kind of came to be, essentially, but in the idea of glasses. And we think the 7th glass is boba. And we're really going to try to make the argument is that, sorry, I sound like a professor, is that we're trying to make the idea that boba is really this new wave of international drinks where you're getting a lot of mixology, which is probably what you're seeing in coffee shops even, right? Like you're gonna learn a lot of mixology today. And so we booked 90 minutes. Usually we do this in 60 minutes. So we're gonna really do this for you all. So we'll stay on as long as we can. So yeah, that's that one. The second book is our friend Chris Yang. He wrote a book called You and I Eat the Same. And that is basically a book about how different cultures have very similar kind of techniques and foods and how food brings everyone together. It's kind of the premise of Boba Guys. So Chris Yang used to be the editor-in-chief of Lucky Peach. You might know. Lucky Peach was probably one of the best foodie magazines in my opinion. And so Chris, who wrote this, and the foreword by Renee Redzepi, if you guys know Noma. So we kind of come from this world. And obviously the last one was really what we worked 2 years on, and we're so sad that we didn't really get to do it. But the book, I know many of you have it already, which is how you got to this point. So really, really appreciate it. We're trying to be New York Times bestseller, but we didn't have a media tour, but we actually sold really well during the holiday. So really thank you. That's why I do think we might just do more of these over time if this does well. we don't have to do recipes from our book, right? We could do recipes that we've actually, I see everybody likes it. So we'll just kind of just have fun together in kind of a more intimate environment. I like seeing the chat. So Ben, you chime in if I'm not seeing chats, because I have to kind of fly through my screen. We usually have two cameras, but the problem is with our limit, we actually can't get the second camera. So I'm gonna actually show you front camera, which is easier to manage this time. So let's get everything ready. Does everybody have their boba? You're gonna have to make your boba. And then you're gonna have to have your matcha, which is in a tin. Most people got their matcha in a tin. You don't have to use your matcha, by the way. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't have your matcha. We're gonna teach you how to buy matcha. Don't worry, this is not about boba guys or tea people. Like, we're trying to promote culture here. You guys know that by now. Make sure you have a 16-ounce clear glass, because we're gonna do something called layering, or poussé, which is the art of layering in cocktails. And layering requires a clear glass. It doesn't mean it won't work with a opaque glass, obviously, but it's for the gram, right? It's 2020. If you didn't put it in on Instagram, did you really have a demo today? No. So that's the second one. Everything's performative. So you need your chasen, which is the bamboo whisker. It's a bamboo whisk chasen, which is when you're gonna whisk your matcha later. And then you're gonna have your hot water kettle. Make sure right now, as we speak, boil your hot water in a hot water kettle. If you guys don't know, this is we film our set here. So I actually am cheating because I have all the hot water set up ready, because this is where we film a lot of our content. This is our office. So make sure you boil it to about, boiling is 212 Fahrenheit. And but what will happen is let it boil and then let it sit for about 10 minutes, and it'll get to around 180, 190 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the ideal temperature for matcha. Too hot, it's gonna make it astringent and like kind of burn it and cook it. Too cold, it's gonna honestly, it's just not gonna brew. So you're not gonna activate kind of the nutrients in the matcha. Make sure you have ice, and make sure you have oat milk. Right here, we use Oatly. We'll tell you a quick story about Oatly later. And then syrup and honey. A lot of people have different syrups and honey. We have one right here. Mine's syrup is starting to crystallize, so I do realize I just got to warm this up. But I'm not going to use. I'm on a little bit on a diet. It's my 2020. No resolutions, but I just need to like lose the COVID-19 weight. So I want to make sure that we are conscious of people with dietary and sugar restrictions. We're boba guys, you guys know we care about diet and allergies and stuff all the time. So we'll walk through all of that. Don't worry, we've done this several times now, so we're going to answer most of the questions in just this part. So let's get through it. Boba is 4 parts in one of my favorite movies. It's Ratatouille. Did anybody see Soul, by the way? Soul was probably now one of my top favorite movies. But Ratatouille before that was kind of like top 2 for me. And in it, there's a ghost of Gusteau, who's the chef, right? And he says that anyone can cook. And the question is why did it take until 2020 that we finally make boba at home and sourdough, like in Dalgona coffee? Like, why did it take so many years to actually do this? Boba's been around for 35 years. Why is it now? And I think we're going to talk a little bit about that. A lot of it is just cultural. And I think that's the part that we're trying to break right now. So boba is 4 parts. It's called a milk tea. So milk tea is boba, milk, tea, and sweetener. So we're going to talk about that. Boba, milk, tea, sweetener. So let's start with the first one. The first part is, what is boba? So does anybody know? You could type it. Does anybody actually know what boba is? Like, what is it made out of? It's in the book. Tapioca is great. It is tapioca. What plant is tapioca made out of? Well, you're just reading from the instructions. You can't do that. There's a plant. There's a plant that boba is actually made out of. Ooh, there we go. Somebody said it. Cassava. Very good. Oh, Paulo Book, yeah. So like anybody from South America here? So shouts to all the South Americans, Brazilians, Argentinian. You have basically something native to the continent called cassava, which is like very similar to a yuca, which is also from South America, but it's like a root. In America, we would say maybe potatoes, although potatoes aren't really tasty. We call it, we would say it's a root vegetable, like a tuber. So it would be like a taro, maybe we're more familiar, but it's sweeter and it's more elastic. Here's what happens. When you boil the cassava, it actually creates elasticity. The starch is what you make into tapioca. the starch from you boil this kind of plant. The starch from it is what you create tapioca out of. Americans, we've been having tapioca for, you've had it this whole time, you didn't know. Anybody from Latinx cultures here? Well, I mean, you have tapioca all over too. Tapioca, custard, pudding, the dessert culture has been all over, you know, Latin countries. And I don't want to get too political here. It's 2020, so it's very kind of like, I don't know, sketchy, or it's kind of like, I don't want to say the word, but I have to. I mean, you get colonization. You have the Spanish and Portuguese come to Southeast Asia, right? I'm just going to say it. I'm Asian, so I'm going to say it. And I'm part Malay. So apparently 23andMe. And in kind of what happens is you have this influence of Spanish and Portuguese culture in Southeast Asia, which is bringing over what you call dessert culture. Yes, the word is colonization. There's a lot of trauma. I'm not even getting into that. What happens though, is when that comes in, you have this kind of fusion between kind of this Asian Latin thing, which is why there's like very similar things, like I speak Cantonese, potat, a Portuguese egg tart, custard, very similar in different cultures. You have a lot of pudding cultures, flan in Mexican culture, very similar to egg pudding, which is in Hong Kong kind of Canto culture. You have kind of like tapioca, which is actually used in tempura. It's used in pudding in all over the world. If you're even South Asian here, simla aloo, which is cassava, which is in Hindi, like it is used in all different cultures. What we're trying to say is it came out of South America, but it went everywhere through trade, through quote unquote imperialism, but it ended up everywhere. And so what you're having, the boba itself is a actual like a global drink. And that's kind of what our argument is. I'm proud Taiwanese, but I definitely have to acknowledge that the Taiwanese itself, our little island was colonized by the Dutch, the Japanese, and the Chinese, right? So the reason why it was assembled on Taiwan, a lot of it has to do with the Taiwanese culture, which I don't want to get into, but you guys understand what we're trying to do is make it so, it's not an Asian teenager drink. It's a global drink that everybody can have. It's why it's doing so well. We just have to demystify it. So we have a factory in Hayward. It's probably, I love Hayward, but it's like the only thing in Hayward now. We wanted to make it Willy Wonka factory this year, but 2020 happened. Hopefully we'll open it one day. I don't know when. I mean, we never know. This pandemic, we just gotta stay strong. But the idea was to make it so it could be accessible for families. I see some children. It's really to make sure that you guys understand like how it's all made. There's like, I think New York Times we let in. They're like the only people out from the outside who's come into the factory. So they did a whole article on it. But it really relies these rolling drums. So these packs that you have, they come out of the US Boba Company. And what happens is they roll into these drums and it tumbles, and it's how it gets its round shape. So so you want to put in a syrup. So we got all these questions on like, how do you put the syrup in? So in most boba shops, most boba shops use, let's say 50-50. Half boba shops use brown sugar syrup base, which is what we do. So I have mine, I already tasted it earlier. I don't have another one. It's like brown sugar. Some boba shops use honey. Nothing wrong with honey. We just have people who have more vegans than an average boba shop. And I myself try to stay away from dairy sometimes. So anything vegan or dairy, like I stay away from allergens. So what happens is you can put brown sugar in instead. Nothing wrong, but if you use honey, it's called honey boba. I don't know if you guys heard that. So that's when you get honey boba. You can do either, whatever you guys want at home. There is something called slang. Anybody who's Taiwanese, the slang for boba, optimal boba. Does anybody actually know this term? I'll give you it's a letter of the alphabet. Let's see if there's any like, there he goes. Oh, you got some Taiwanese Mandarin speakers in house. It's QQ. So it's a little bit of culture speak. In English, you guys ever cook pasta? When you cook pasta, when something's like kind of perfect to the tooth, what is that? What do we say in English? It's actually Italian, but like, what do we say? It's al dente. Oh, you guys, this is basically a foodie crowd. I'm realizing when we do companies and like biotechs, no offense to them, I guess this is being recorded, but it's a lot less engaging. I don't know. Shouts to you all. I've never seen the chat really blow up like this. So it means, to the tooth, as Haley just said. Al dente is kind of when we say, hey, pasta is perfectly chewy, but a little bit firm. Boba has the same phrase. It's called QQ. Like in Mandarin, my mom's Taiwanese. We'll say, she's like, oh, Andrew, this is QQ. It means it's very Q. It's very QQ, like queen, queen, queen's gambit, QQ. It's a letter Q. And what that means is you want it firm and chewy, but you don't want it like to melt in your mouth. I kind of equate it like, my favorite gummies are like Haribo gummy bears. It's like Haribo gummy bears, not like gas station gummy bears. You know, when you buy at the gas station, you get those on a road trip and then leave it on your dashboard and it melts. Not those. It's the Haribos. So to give you an idea, that's how you get it. So we do 30 minutes, or 30-30, where you boil it for 30. If you want it harder, you just boil it a little less. You probably boil it for 20 minutes. If you want it softer, you boil it for 35-40 minutes. Does that make sense? And because I told you it was a starch, you guys now have the properties of a starch. So I'll give you an example. Anybody who's a home chef cook, if you cook with starches and carbs, when you heat it, most starches break, actually in carbs, break during heat. It's kind of what happens, like bread or pasta, right? So think of boba too. The hotter it is, it'll gotta get softer. The colder it is, it's gonna get hard. And people want to, I'll get into this later, but if you buy boba that's quick serve boba, it's made out of a different starch. It's why you get those 5-minute bobas at like Ranch 99. Nothing wrong with them. It's how we started. We didn't even know. It actually hardens real quick, if you notice that at home. So the boba we use is actually called a modified starch that is from Thailand that we sort, we're the only vertically integrated boba shop in the world. So, well, in America. And so our starch is actually modified for us. So what that means is basically it's kind of like reduced to its essence, and it's just really more expensive. I'll just say that. But for us, it's kind of what we do. So your starch will determine how hard it can get or how malleable it is when it's cold or hot. So that's kind of it. So enough of the talking. Let's just get into the real making. I am gonna scoop. You guys have it in your syrup. It takes about 30 minutes to kind of sweeten up. People wonder how long does it take? It takes us about, I should even know. I haven't made a batch of boba. I strained boba last week at a store at Potrero, but I haven't actually made boba in probably a year. So sorry, don't say that. But if I remember correctly, it takes about 30 minutes to sweeten up. So if you look at Boba Guys, we put these tapes that say the times. It'll say like 4:30 to 8:30, 4-hour windows that we use. But it'll take about the first half hour is when it's sweetening. So I'm doing about, I don't know, 2 tablespoons. It's a holiday, just treat yourself. 4 tablespoons, it's okay. We normally, if you're wondering how many we do in a Boba Guy shop, we use a scoop. Anybody who's British and English, you might know this is actually just a pea ladle. We just buy 1,000 of them at our size. These are pea ladles. And then we scoop them. So this is about 3.5 tablespoons flat. So about 4 tablespoons what we use in a store, just in case you're wondering. 10 boba, too many to count. We actually have if she's on here, I'm not trying to call her out, but she's one of our oldest people. But do not order this way. Somebody orders like 10 bobas at a time, and we can't do that during the pandemic. It's too hard to count. All right, so let's set that aside. Let's get harder and harder. I'm gonna teach you how to be a great boba barista. Let's get your matcha out. So you're gonna need a round bowl for your matcha. Your matcha is gonna require a round bowl, and you're gonna know why very soon. You're gonna take your teaspoon. You're gonna use 1 teaspoon of matcha. Does anybody know, I think most people do, where is matcha most famously from? Japan. Yeah, this is too easy for you guys. Usually people guess. It's like not China, Japan. So this is the matcha we use. We're gonna teach you how to buy matcha so you don't have to get it from us. Ooh, Lucy even knows what region. Uji. Uji is where one of our matcha suppliers are. Yes, Uji is right outside of Kyoto, which is kind of the matcha capital of the big cities. So Uji and Nishio. We get our matcha from Nishio. Nishio would be like, I'm sure there's somebody Japanese here. So I'm gonna describe kind of the main island matcha. So it's where DC would be, Washington, DC. And then Uji would be where maybe Arizona would be, kind of like if you kind of treat it like a banana. And what basically the idea is that there's about 3-4 main regions of Japan where you make your matcha, but origin does matter because when we get it later, you're going to realize you're putting this entire leaf into your body. So you want kind of like the best of the environment to get in there. The good news is Japan makes probably the world's best matcha, and they're really, really tight on controls. So I would say even more than Americans. So I do think Japanese matcha is the best. although they do make matcha in Japan, I'm sorry, in China, in Vietnam, even in America. We have our friends, I used to have it here, our friends in Mauna Kea in Big Island of Hawaii. I used to have it in my kitchen, but you can actually make matcha. It's just really expensive and not worth the price. If you're gonna get matcha and you start now, if you want to get super bougie, okay, get the other stuff. But for now, you can make matcha from Japanese matcha. It is actually also something that people think is only a green tea. Matcha technically is not only a green tea. It's only in America that we think matcha is this tea you drink after your soul cycle and your berries boot camp, and turmeric. Before hipsters took it over, matcha actually is super sacred. So we're going to do a little bit of a matcha ceremony here. Does anybody know what matcha, if you speak Mandarin or any of the Chinese, most of the Chinese dialects or Japanese, what does matcha mean? Mota, mata, mata. What does that actually mean translated to, like the two words? Oh, yeah, we got some speakers here. Cha for English speakers means tea. Most people know in the English language, we see the word te, tea, or cha. Cha is kind of like the East Asian conversion of it. So what will happen is that matcha is just ground tea. You can actually have black tea matcha. Anybody who's been to Japan, you know there's black tea matcha, but its most famous form in America especially is green tea, because it's really good for you. Green tea is, I do think, a little better for you than black tea. It is one of the highest concentrations of antioxidants in the world. ACGC, especially now in this day and age with American diets, we definitely recommend having green tea. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna grab the green tea, and here's your matcha. Should be very vibrant green. I'm gonna teach you guys how to see matchas like as good. I'm gonna do a heaping teaspoon, so a little bit more than a teaspoon. And you're gonna drop it into your bowl. So you're gonna learn that matcha is really kind of, I would say, determined by 4 parts. It's origin, it's the color, it's the feel. If you put matcha between your fingers, it should feel like it's silk. It's almost like it disappears in your hand. It should be, the taste is your 4th one. It should be like bitter, but not overly astringent and sour bitter. So that's a really good matcha for you. So, highest concentrations of, so I already have all the nutrients, so it's good for you. People want to say, well, how good is it? Well, name your top fruit. Most people say the super berries like acai has a lot of antioxidants, right? Matcha has even more. It's like double acai. The reason why is because matcha, it's the entire kind of like the best of the earth, because just like wine and grapes is absorbing all the nutrients around it. And you're getting high quality matcha, which we'll explain later how you get quality, is that usually it's the first season, which is right after winter, it's the spring. So winter season is really cold, just like grapes. When it's really stressed, all the nutrients get sucked and get hoarded by the plants. So the spring flush is always where the most nutrients are best, just like in grapes. And then you get grapes later on in the season, just like tea. But your first flush is, if you make matcha out of it, it's really high quality matcha. That's what you're using today. So matcha does mean grilled, grounded, milled tea. So does anybody done a tea ceremony? I'm gonna slow down a little bit. I actually haven't even eaten my lunch, so I'm a little hyper because I have matcha in my body. Has anybody done a tea ceremony? I can't see the chat all the time. Oh, somebody, yeah, which ones? Like, there's like the Japanese, there's a Chinese Kung Fu tea ceremony, a little bit of both, right? Oh, my Zoom just switched. Oh, I don't want to, how do I get it back out? Okay, so yeah, Japanese, okay, great. So we're gonna do something called Ichigo Ichie. Does anybody know what the term that means? Ichigo Ichie. We've been teaching this to companies. I'm not sure if this matters to the public, but I don't know if you realize this. Well, Ichi, if you guys know how to count Japanese, Ichi-ni-san, Ichi means 1. So it means one time, one meeting. And it's, to me, it's like super beautiful because it's basically saying that it's one time, one meeting. It's like we are in 2020, in the middle of this massive pandemic. Like we were just talking to our LA team and they're not you know, LA is the first to not go out of their pandemic, right? So I don't know if anybody's from LA right now. You know, we have about 40% of our team there. It sucks. But I have to say, you know, if you can't do anything about the pandemic too much, you can change on your outlook. And Ichigo Ichie is kind of our outlook. So I don't know if you know, the tea was originally something that people say it was in like emperors in China and all that kind of stuff. But when it got really popular, like the monks, and it was very religious. And it was because back in the day, it was very feudal. People were fighting all the time. And you never know if you're going to die tomorrow. So if you had a tea ceremony, if you ever did a tea ceremony, have you noticed they use like round bowls because of Confucianism, Taoism, and you turn, and then it's very slow. Everything's like methodical. And it's because you have to treat every moment as if it's your last. One time, one meeting. Because tomorrow you might die. Because that's literally what they felt. You probably could, because your clan next door. I mean, I'm not trying to like, it's a bad samurai movie, but Last Samurai, like it happens. And if those societies, that's what happened back then. And so it had this kind of religious sense to it. And so right now we're experiencing something where it's like almost like a beautiful treasure. This is like literally the last 2 days of 2020, probably the worst year, definitely in my lifetime. I think maybe many people's. But I do think this is one of those moments where, you know, I don't want to get sentimental, but this is like really rare. This is like really, I don't know. I never thought we'd be doing a public one, to be honest. So as you know, like we've been kind of like quiet, and we so much is going on. We're trying to like not add to the noise. So this is definitely an honor. So let's do the tea ceremony together. You're gonna get 15 milliliters of hot water, or 1.5 fluid ounces. Your hot water should be cold, about enough time. It should be cold now, or cooler. All right, so here is your hot water. Everybody follow? What you're gonna do, I'm gonna show you a trick that you might have noticed at stores, where we actually add 10 milliliters of hot water first. It's just a little bit. Here's what you're gonna try to do. Did you notice that there was clumps in your matcha? What you wanna do is get rid of those clumps now, and you're gonna make it into a paste. You know how it's a paste? Because I'm turning the matcha on its side, and it's not even falling off. And if you look at my chasen right here, it's super smooth. What you guys are making right now, anybody who's Japanese, you might know, it's called koicha, which means thick tea. Some people actually have matcha in this form, believe it or not. It's really, really bitter. Like if you taste it right now, you're gonna have it with something called wagashi. Wagashi is like the Japanese sweets. Those are really small confections. It's really bitter. You don't usually have it this way, but some people do, because you have all the nutrients concentrated. But what we're doing is we're doing this because it's a method to do, if you do Japanese tea ceremonies, usually you'll make it into a koicha, a Japanese paste first. And when you do that, you actually got rid of all the clumps. And now you're gonna add the rest of your hot water. So now you're gonna do something called aerating or whisking. I make the letter M. This is where I wish I had the second camera. I'm gonna try to do it here. So I make the letter M as in matcha, and you're gonna try to get a microfoam. Anybody worked at like Starbucks or like coffee shops, they'll know what microfoam is. Does anybody know why we do microfoam for matcha? Here's my microphone. Can you see it? Let me see. Here it is. It's gonna be like small, tiny bubbles. At this point, I usually do ASMR. And then I do a beauty shot. There you go. So you can see it's super cleaned out, and all you got is your microphone matcha right here. Now I just need some EDM, soft EDM music. I go. All right, does it make sense? Cool. All right, so we're gonna start getting fancier now, as I promised. You're gonna go back, you're gonna let your matcha cool down. You're gonna go back to your boba. And then your boba is going to be, it's kind of cooled down because mine was super hot. You're gonna add sugar and sweetness to it. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with all the different types of sugars. I just realized, oh yeah, there they are. Does anybody know what type of sugars do we use in America? Like what's the most popular kind of sweeteners? Yeah, I don't want to be an influencer. Cane sugar, yeah. In America, we use white cane sugar a lot. Nothing technically wrong with that. You know, fructose is probably even worse. Boba guys, I'm sure you know, we don't use, we use some cane sugar. We don't use any fructose unless it's natural, I guess, in fruit. But the idea is that we actually use mostly different unrefined sugar. So I'm gonna actually just realize it's not on set, so I have to go grab it. So, so there's a little bit of show and tell. In America, we kind of generally see, you can use monk fruit, yeah. We generally see white sugar as kind of sugar. And if you want to get a little bit bougie, you might see turbinado, right? It's like the cane sugar, you get like brew bottle. But if you're from like, if anybody from like Latin cultures, African cultures, you're actually gonna see more advanced tropical kind of sugars, which is what we use. So one of the ones we're going to use, you can make, this is Kakudo, which is very dark Japanese or Taiwanese brown sugar. It's going to taste almost like molasses. Anybody ever had kiramitsu? Kiramitsu is actually that black sugar that you put on top of like your matcha and desserts and stuff. It's sweet. It's really, really good. We make our own kiramitsu, but it's actually using basically Kakudo. We use agave and brown sugar, but it's the same idea. The other ones is we actually have rock sugars that you can buy, which some of you guys have gotten the amber rock sugar. Shouts to anybody from the tropics, any like Pacific Islanders here. We actually do use palm sugar sometimes too for coconut drinks. Latinx people from your community, you also have palm sugar as well. You cook with palm sugar. Palm sugars have really high melting points, so you have to really cook it to kind of melt it down. And then you have other kind of rock sugars here. This is like Taiwanese right here. What we're trying to say is that in America, we kind of think of sugars as really complex. What we're trying to tell you is that just make syrups at home and just have them set aside. How you make syrups, I'm sure you guys know from instructions now, super easy. It's in our book. It's in instructions you get in your kits. Water and sugar. That's all simple syrups are. Usually it's 1 part, 1 part. 1 cup, 1 cup. 1 ounce, 1 ounce, whichever one you want. It generally is based on volume, but we generally see like 1 cup, 1 cup. So when we make ours, it's how we're using all that. And some of you want to use honey. At Boba Guys, I have something called, I've been telling the public a little bit more, rheumatoid arthritis. So I have rheumatism. So I try to stay away from inflammation. But people don't get why Boba Guys is the way it is partly because, for me at least, Bin is like a twig, but I have actually health issues. Bin is like a straw, I'm like the Boba. And so my rheumatism, I have to watch out for, you know, like what you call low glycemic index, you know, inflammation stuff. But sugar, I love sugar. Sugar is not the devil, but it's an accomplice, right? It's definitely not great for you if you have too much of it. So that's actually why Boba Guys is the way it is, which is why everybody thinks it's about bouginess. It's not about that. It's actually for us. We just got older and we want to drink boba. That's all it is. So let's get your sugars out. You can use honey if you just want to kind of skip the hard part today. So let's grab your, where's my pyramids? Oh. So you're going to grab it. I'm going to show you how to coat the glass like a bartender. Yeah, like panela. Nice. Yeah. Yes. Oh man, I love this. This is like true foodie crowd. So this is going to be honey or syrup. Here's, I'm going to show you how to coat the glass, right? This is what you don't see in the stores unless you pay attention really closely. I'm going to turn my tablespoon, it's a teaspoon, but like it's really full. And I'm going to rotate the glass. A lot of people, what they teach you on YouTube is that when they teach you how to coat glasses, they tell you to go like this. It's really messy. It's going to drip on both sides. We do thousands of these a day, as you guys probably know. So if we can make, you know, amazing college students do it, I think you guys could do it this way. Like, and if you're in college, shouts to you, because this is a hard time to be in college. But I'm going to do it again. You can see my spoon doesn't go anywhere. All I'm doing is rotating glass. If you ask our team, this is exactly how they're almost all trained prior to the pandemic, at least. And it looks kind of weird, but remember, we're doing it for the gram, right? Like, did you really make boba at all if you didn't put it on Instagram? So we're doing this to coat the glass to create this kind of lava flow effect. And now you're gonna add ice. You're gonna add 1 cup of ice right now. So here's it looks like a lot of ice. Trust me, it's not gonna be that much. We do this a lot. But here's why. I'm gonna teach you guys actually a little bit more bartending speak. So I actually have fancy ice, but I don't wanna like seem super bougie. But you can use any type of ice, but if you wanna talk to like a bartender, is anybody here a bartender, by the way? And you're like now or in college or like, I can't do high school, or you could. Well, in bartending, I'm sure you know, after you kind of know ratios and how to use different spirits, you actually use ice as kind of your next thing. Ice is very important. What type of ice, how cold it is, how to make perfect ice for whiskey, for any type of drink. So we're gonna talk a little bit about ice. How much syrup? Oh, by the way, it's up to you. At Boba Guys, it's 4 tablespoons for 100%. I did 2 because I'm watching a little bit of my 2021. I'm going to 2021 diet. So I did 2 tablespoons here. So I did 2. I just did 2 of those spins. 4 is what you get at Boba Guys at 100%. But I think the crowd here it seems like most people are a little bit on the older, if you're a more adult, you're probably gonna start lowering your sweetness, right? Like I cannot have 100% sweet drinks at any boba shop anymore. And I tried. I'm like, did I always drink this? Like my favorite boba shop is this place in Irving. When I grew up in the Bay Area for half my life. And it was called Wonderful Foods, if you know what I'm talking about. And I love Wonderful Foods, but I didn't realize how sweet it was until I had it like about 6 months ago, right before the pandemic closed, I guess longer than that. And I was like, wow, I forgot. I was getting the pineapple buns down the street, if you know what I'm talking about. So that is kind of like the idea of how to use syrup. So let's go back to the ice. So your ice is going to be more because what we're going to think about is dilution. Remember, your matcha that we're making today is an iced matcha latte, which means it's iced, but your matcha is not a normal teaspoon, is because you know you're going to dilute it. And that's what we're about to do. So the first thing we're going to do is add the milk first. Get your Oatly out. I think everybody knows there's this relationship between Boba Guys and Oatly. Ben can send you the link on the chat, but there's like this story. If you really want to know the story that we haven't told the public too much, it is true. Ben met Oatly at a coffee festival in LA. And Oatly was trying to sell into these cool coffee shops, you know, and we have a lot of friends in like, you know, Reveille Coffee. We're really close with them. Jacob and Phil's, he and I both grew up in South San Francisco. So La Colombe, like we know a lot of them, but most people kind of think of them as the cafe industry leader. But Ben happened to be on the floor because we were working with Strauss, ironically. We still are, but just at the time we were in their booth. And we met Oatly because we were looking for a plant-based, because we were trying to get rid of soy milk. If you remember in Boba Guys, we started off with soy milk as the plant-based milk. We wouldn't want, also almond milk was tough because of environment. And Boba Guys is really more for the environment nowadays. Like we're really pushing that, right? So we were finding Oatly was kind of like an option, but we never drank it, and they were leaving the US market. So short story, they're from Sweden. They're really big there, but they weren't making any headway. This is 2016. So long story short, we bought the only pallet. So if you guys are fans, it seems like you are, that's the real reason Boba Guys had oat milk. It seemed like anywhere before Whole Foods, it was because we were the only people that owned the pallet. I'm in Brisbane right now where our headquarters is. Some of you know the Burrow, which is our commissary. That's kind of like our commissary kitchen warehouse. We make everything in-house. It filled up like half that place of these pallets of oat milk. And it was such a big gamble, but we knew it tasted good with matcha. We just didn't really know how much of a hit it would be. And that actually is the real story. And maybe you guys know we're really close with Alfred. So we got Josh from Alfred Coffee to carry it. And from there, I mean, he's Mr. hip cool guy. So Josh got all his influencers to drink oat milk. So that's actually the real story. But it was a boba shop not a coffee shop. That's the point. The point is culture doesn't always come from coffee, which is what American thinks. It comes from all over. We can't be so myopic. I'm not trying to take credit, but it's just, don't underestimate boba or those little small tertiary brands like smoothies or juices, you know. Shouts to everyone. Okay. If you add your oat milk, you're going to see this way called veins. We call it in bartending veining. It looks like lava. Oh, yeah. So Alyssa got it. I can't see everyone's camera, but I can see it on some cameras already. It's beautiful, right? It's for the gram. And now your matcha should be roughly room temp. And what you're going to do is you're going to layer on top of matcha. You don't need, by the way, oat milk. You can use whole milk. I'm not judging. Macadamia milk's really good. Hemp milk's good, although hemp milk is really strong. Coconut milk is great. It's a little thin. Rice milk is good, but very thin. It's going to be very watery. But I like oat milk. And then you pour it, and you're going to hit the ice. What you can't see is I'm pouring it directly onto the ice cube. And people always wonder, how does Boba guys get what we call stripes? So this is what we train our team. We call it in our manual, hit the ice. It's also in our book. And it's the idea that when it hits the ice, the matcha diffuses horizontally. Because if it misses the ice, it has a tendency, like gravity, to go through it, and it'll start swirling. And we call it marbling in the business. It'll start marbling. Marbling looks great. I think marbling looks a cool effect. But to really be accurate and create these stripes, you actually have to, I think it's harder to do what you call hitting the ice. Does that make sense? Yeah? So that's another secret that we gave away during this pandemic. Ooh, so good. And that's actually how you got it. So you guys should see your matcha with those veins that are really cool, and then your boba at the bottom. Oh, I think I saw some people. I see Alyssa's got, oh yeah, Alyssa's got it. There you go. And you got the cute with the lashes. You guys all got it. Paige, Letty. Oh, is Letty's a strawberry matcha? What thing? Oh, okay. Well, that's going to be one of the Q&A questions you guys usually ask is, how do you get strawberry? Basically, what we didn't do today was make the strawberry puree, but it's not hard to, Letty it's not that hard to do it. You just need to make sure that the puree is dense enough to sink to the bottom. Here's why that's important. Oh, Hannah's camera got it. Is that when we do it this way, what you're seeing is in bartending speak, there's an idea called poussé. Has anybody, like, when you drink and you go to these fancy bartending bars, and like Angel Share in New York is one of my favorite. SG in Tokyo is my other favorite. Is that you see these layers? They look like almost like ombre, right? Like sometimes it's like very defined layers, and it's the layers of the liqueur, the water, the liquid. What that means is it's basically using density to layer. That's actually what we've been doing this whole time. What you've been doing is that the boba, cassava from South America to Southeast Asia, then to Taiwan, is then layered with the sugar, depending what sugar you use, from all over the world. Plus, if you have beet rock sugar, by the way, that's German. Anybody who's German knows that's beet sugar, very popular, the amber rock. And then you have the oat leaf from Sweden. And then you have the matcha from Japan. But you use a technique that's like a kind of like a bartending and like a cocktail mixology, which is really European English. So like when you put that all together, that's actually how we think boba is a global drink, because you're using this technique. When Boba Guy started in 2011, the most advanced drink you would probably see visually would maybe be an Arnold Palmer, maybe, right? You would see like a 2-layer drink, lemonade, iced tea. That's an Arnold Palmer. Well, Boba Guys, we started doing triple, quadruple. We now have 6 layers. Some people know our 88 Rising drink, Head in the Clouds. It looked like a sunset. That was actually a 6-layer drink. You could Google a Head in the Clouds drink. It's a 6-layer drink. It was the crema, the cloud on the top, with the layers and the butterfly pea, and then the citrus, the peach. It was too much going on, in my opinion. But you actually saw that's how we did it. So that's what you guys learned today. And I hopefully felt like you guys kept up to speed, because I'm going to do a second recipe I heard that you guys want. In the meantime, I'll answer any questions right now. So we did it right on the dot. So it's 1 p.m. Actually, you want to do a cheers? Let's just do a cheers to everyone. Cheers to pandemic, and let's get out of this year. Oh, when you drink it, you got to mix it, right? It's only good for the gram, but then when you drink it, you want the layers to disappear. It's really good. Oh, it's good. But now I'm just gonna get more hyper. I really should have eaten lunch. Wow, good. Yeah, okay, let's answer some questions in the meantime before I get my next quick recipe set up. I'm gonna do a milk tea with you all really quick after this. Ben, you wanna answer the logo?
Yeah, the aardvark. A lot of people, a lot of kids especially guess that it's a anteater. It's actually an aardvark. You know, we wanted to make something that represented boba that was both familiar but also kind of foreign, just like boba is. And so it's super accessible. We knew that there wasn't any. It has a built-in straw. The aardvark. We're actually working on a plush right now, and also because it has no intellectual property attached, and so we were able to trademark it. So we're one of the only companies that really is behind the aardvark. How would you make a hot matcha boba? Oh, yeah, that's pretty easy too. Milk. If you have a way to put it on the stove, or if you're lucky enough to have a steamer, it's a great way to make hot matcha boba. We like that in the wintertime. Do you guys sell your boba to other boba shops? Yeah, we do actually. Alfred Tea, if you've ever been to them in LA, they carry our boba. Teaspoon, they're our partners at US Boba Co. They use US Boba Co. boba. And hopefully we'll expand it more. I think that people are starting to come around to boba made here in the US, and obviously direct to consumers. So being able to sell it on the bobakit.com, that's been a great way to kind of get the word out that we actually make boba ourselves.
Yeah, I see a question about matcha selling. Ben, I'm gonna jump in on how to buy matcha. This component is like 4 parts. It's the origin, it's the feel, how finely grounded it is, the color, and then the taste. Well, to buy it, there's actually 5 layers. There's 5 categories of matcha. Highest level of matcha is what we call ceremonial. Boba Guys doesn't even use ceremonial. If you use ceremonial tea, it's honestly so expensive. It's like $30 a cup. When you see ceremonial matcha in cafes, including some of our friends, it's actually misnamed. It's lost in translation. It is not ceremonial matcha. You're not using that in tea ceremonies with the emperor or like dignitaries. It's not the same quality. And I'll explain why maybe one day later. But what you're using is probably called premium grade or A grade or high grade. It's usually what you got to ask, what is the tea made out of? So ours is first flush. Ours is sencha, which is the first flush of a Japanese green tea. So that's when you mill it. And that we know because we work directly. We're one of the top users or consumers of organic matcha of this grade. And I think it is this grade in the entire nation, because we do almost like, strawberry matcha lattes are our signature drink. Imagine how many matchas we do. And then even if you're Starbucks, you don't use organic matcha. So at our scale, there's nobody at our scale that does organic matcha. So we're actually the top. Even organic milk, Strauss says we're the #1 organic milk outside of consumer that's not a grocery market, believe it or not. It's just because it's just because we use so much milk in our drinks too. So because of that, you kind of have a really high quality. So you're gonna buy level 2 matcha or grade, the 2nd grade. 3rd grade is called cafe grade. That's usually what you get at Starbucks or most boba shops. Nothing wrong with it. It just means it's later flushes. It's just cheaper. So to give you an idea, a tin like this is usually 20, 25 bucks on Amazon, right? 30 grams, 37 grams. This is usually a premium grade matcha. Cheaper grade matchas is usually at the same tin or bag. They're usually going to be like about 10, 12 bucks. It's like half the price. The 4th grade is what we call culinary grade. That's usually when you're baking grade. You ever had like a matcha cream puff or like a matcha cookie, and it goes under a lot of heat and duress? Well, that actually is what you use, and it's an even cheaper grade, because at that point it's going through so much processing and denaturing that it won't really matter. And then the 5th one is production. That's usually what you see in like matcha cream. It's like topical, like cream mass and all that stuff, but you're not ingesting it. You're not having that at all, really. So that one you don't even buy. So I recommend that you guys buy like the 2nd or the 3rd. If you really have the money, I'm not sure, it's hard times right now, but you can buy ceremonial grade, but make sure it's real ceremonial, and you'll know it's real ceremonial because it's only true tea houses that sell it. Most places are just selling fancy versions of what we have, which is like what we call premium grade. So it's what we use. It's what Chacha Matcha uses. We know those guys. T-Bar. It's what T-Bar uses in Portland. Yeah. stored matcha lasts for a while. Actually, I have this one. We buy ours in bulk, so this has been here for like half a year. Do you guys know that the matcha that you're having, I just checked, is from this season? It is really, really rare. It means that it was plucked in spring, and we got it probably in September, and we sold the boba kits in like November. So if you have them, you likely are getting in here matcha in a cafe, which is unheard of. Unheard of if you guys know your tea. And you guys got it right at the right time and we flew through it. So that's pretty crazy. I'm not gonna promise that all the time, but it just so happened I was checking the dates. I was like, oh my gosh, this holiday we caught it right in time. Is there a way to keep your boba warm? Yeah, the best way to keep it warm. Some people use if you want to use a cheat as a rice cooker. So rice cookers have a non-stick. So some of you guys might know that the boba is hard to clean. So sorry, I should have warned you of that. So if you use, you boil it and you cook it in a non-stick pan in a pot inside the boba cooker, it's easy. And you can use that boba rice cooker as on warm, and it keeps it warm. Some shops use that actually as how they do it. The reason we don't do it is we go through boba at such a crazy velocity that it actually would mean like we'd have like 5 crock pots at the same time, and for us it's just a little undoable. But if you get your boba right within the first hour, and sometimes you probably come really early and you get that first boba, you'll know it's warm. It's because it was just right out of there. Oh, don't freeze matcha, by the way. Yeah, don't freeze matcha. Alice and Julia Chang, this is the one we never get. How can you talk about similarities or differences you see in boba culture and innovation? Yeah. This is where, I hope what we're about to say in the next 22 minutes is not, I think people misunderstand what we do. And Ben and I, we're kind of in San Francisco, so we understand what boba liberalism is and all that kind of stuff. But I think people misunderstand how culture really works, in my opinion, because I think Ben and I have been lucky that I grew up in America, but we speak a lot of different languages, and for our job, we travel across the world. I go to Europe a lot. Some of you guys know I was in Spain for a whole month last year. I think, here's how I would say it. I think America has to first understand that we are not the center of the world. I'm going to use that very carefully. We talk about privilege and luxury, but we don't see how privileged Americans are. And we make mistakes all the time. Boba guys, we made plenty of mistakes. But I do think in the grand scheme, we don't allow ourselves to make any mistakes. And I think because of that, I think innovation in the US dies. I think we can't talk about culture anymore. Like, people don't realize, people are like, oh, Andrew and Ben, like, you guys, are you really that deep? I'm like, we wrote this book over a year ago when we sent it into the printers. And in page 8, it literally there was a joke in here. It said, the subtitle says, the working title for this book is How to Save the World from World War III. But it was really too much. It was kind of a joke, but it obviously hit home too serious in 2020. But when we wrote it, we thought it was just funny at the time, because what we see is that, what people misunderstand boba guys bridging cultures is like, oh, we're trying to bring like everybody drink boba. No, actually, it's philosophy. If you guys know my background, I was more of like a sociologist undergrad. I almost did my PhD in this stuff, and which is bad. I don't want to say that, but like, I think what people understand is boba guys is really the argument of individualism, which is usually what you see in Western American culture, and communalism or collectivism, which is like groups. Do you act as a whole, as a one unit, or do you act as an individual? You see that why boba guys in March, you guys saw we're all on the news because we shut down our stores really early and we went contact tracing. And we have a store shut down right now and we send out emails. We have tests. Boba guys has in-house COVID testing right here. I just did mine right before I came in because I don't want to make sure that what boba shop or what cafe in the US has in-house COVID testing. We actually have it. And I think the reason why I use this is that when you think about innovation, it's all together. Taiwan and Asia has a ton of innovation. Why? Because they take their inspiration from all over the world now. The best Italian food is in Japan, right? I think so. You know, the best pizzas in Japan. You watch Ugly Delicious. The best pizzas in Japan. You know, all the best cafes in the world, they're in Asia right now. They're in Korea. They're in Seoul, Korea, in Taipei, in Tokyo, maybe Kyoto, and in Shanghai. That's where the best cafes in the world are, bar none. I've been to all over Europe. I've been to Italy. I've been to Tuscany. I've been to France. No. Nothing compares to Asia or maybe even Middle East. Middle East is close, but it's where you think about open-mindedness. So when you actually, and bakeries, yeah. So when you actually bring that all in, that's why Taiwan and Asia is winning in innovation in almost everything. Boba Guys went QR code right when the pandemic happened. We were one of the first companies to go straight QR code. You guys noticed, right? We had a whole debate between the Westerners in the company, including my COO, who I love, Katie, and Ben and I. And it was because we saw the future was technology. It's why Boba Guys was a little bit ahead. And so, you know, I don't think we're perfect at all. I just think that Boba Guys is more right now coming from the world of what the future looks like in Asia than we are American. I will be honest. And what we're trying to do is bring all different cultures together. Like people ask, what's your favorite tea? My favorite tea at this very moment, which I actually have right to my right, is like, I like black teas, which I made. I have a Kenyan tea. People don't know Africa's making killer tea right now. It's creating billions of dollars. I want them to be rich on that continent instead of people making money off of them. And Africa tea, Kenyan teas, that's what I want. And I think people don't think about things that way. And so I think that's where Boba Guys really comes in, where we try to make people think, you know, class and race are intertwined in America for sure. I'm a Robert Reich fan. You know, I went to Cal. He was my professor. Wealth and Poverty, it was my class when I took sophomore year at Cal. I definitely see it. But I think to get out of, you know, that mindset, you have to go one level meta, one level up. That's the only way you're going to address all these other issues we got. And that's what Boba Guys is trying to do. So if you understand that, then you understand how innovation works. Our social innovation, our technological innovation, our flavor innovation is all because it's a global mindset and not this myopic American mindset. I know I'm going to catch some shade and I'm going to get canceled again for saying that, but I think we now know, and I have a great executive coach, that I think we have to be unapologetic about where we stand as a company. And we've always done it right. And many of you know, this is kind of the super fans. You know, we've been talking like this forever. So it wasn't like we just made it up in 2020 when it was hip to be socially cool. We did it. We've been talking about social stuff since 2013 when we used to blog on Good Magazine, right? So I just want you guys to know that, you know, we are for the cause, but we do it very subtly because we think it takes a really long time to kind of turn this whole ship around. And that's all I got to say about that. That's Forrest Gump. So yeah, go to Taiwan, go to Asia. That's where you're going to see all the latest stuff. You know, they're partying in Taiwan right now. My friends, they had like this festival, music festival. I was like, how do you guys have a music festival? I can't get out of my own house. Oh, thanks for your response. Oh, I feel safe. I feel, any other questions? I'm going to show you the second recipe real quick, if you want. It's really easy. They say, how do you make like a chai milk tea? As I mentioned, I made a black milk tea. This is a Kenyan black milk tea that I just made. I have friends who are suppliers there from Africa. So in this case, I also don't like this whole, you can tell kind of where I go. So I want people to own their stuff. So this is my black tea. It's very heavily steeped. It's very dark, if you notice. So most black tea, you don't want to steep so heavily. I did 4 times the dose. Usually in America, we steep 1 teaspoon per cup, right? 8 ounces. I did like 4 or 5 times more than that. That's why it's so like heavy. So if I drink it right now, yeah, okay, it's like very bitter. But if you add actually condensed milk, like a Hong Kong style with Kenyan coffee, oh, so good. That's a condensed milk with a little bit of coffee in it. Ooh, with Kenyan tea. The reason why I say the difference, if you're wondering, tea from right now in Kenya is actually smoky. It reminds me in China of a tea called Yunnan. If you know your Yunnan tea, I supply tea for Boba Kit. So in Yunnan is a smoky tea. So it reminds me of the same stuff. But on Suchong, they make it so smoky. It's like drinking ash. So that's why I've been on a kick. And then you put 1 part milk. So here's the trick that you guys may or may not know is that when we did the matcha, this was a latte, 4 parts milk, 1 part tea. What I just did right now was a milk tea, 4 parts tea, 1 part milk. And oh yeah, this is really good. This is. I don't even need sugar in this one. Oh yeah, okay. So super smooth. Wow, that's super smooth. And I just put some oat milk in it. And so if you're making chai milk tea, if you're making English breakfast milk tea, you're making a teh tarik, anybody from Southeast Asia, Singapore, shouts to you. Even Vietnamese coffee in this way, it's a 4-to-1 ratio, 1-to-4. So now you guys know, you're like, how do you get all these 20-year-olds to memorize such crazy formulas? And it's because we use a lot of ratios in Boba, guys. That goes back to bartending. So we still got some time. Now I did all the recipes. So cheers. I see all the families. It's so cute. We're gonna give away more of these. People always ask about these. So the one thing about having a global supply chain is that we source directly from Asia. So these are these like plushies. So we have, you guys can't see, but we have a whole room full of these. So we've been giving them away. We're not trying to make money off of them. We're just actually just using it to give away. So you saw a giveaway last week, I think. Anna might know. And we're gonna give away another set coming up.
There's one question that always comes up is like, can you, if you made too much boba, if you accidentally did your entire bag of boba, like what can you do about that? And I think that, the first thing is to find some friends and give them boba, because it's best within the first 4 hours of making it. It's like super fresh. But if you have too much extra, I would strain out some of the excess syrup and you can put it in the fridge and then pop it in the microwave the next day when you're ready to enjoy it. And it'll reconstitute it. It's kind of like pasta. It's not going to be as great as that very first time, but it'll still be pretty good the next day. So if you have extra boba, that's what you want to do. If you have the dried boba, now that you've opened the pack, you really want to keep it in a kind of a sealed, airtight container so the moisture doesn't get in. Same with the matcha as well. Someone asked about, should you freeze it? I don't recommend that. You can just keep it at room temp outside. Reason being is if you put it in the fridge, there's a chance that it could also accumulate moisture inside. And you don't want moisture with the matcha because then it'll start going bad. Someone said, if we put it in the fridge, how long can we keep it in there until the boba is bad? I wouldn't push the luck. I would say maybe 1 to 2 days at most. So don't go too crazy with it. But it should be fine because there's also the sugar in it that you've done with the simple syrup.
Ooh, Persian tea with cardamom. That was good. We shouts to everybody in the Middle East. We make a lot of. We've been working on it. I don't know if people would let Boba guys make it because I don't want to be caught be appropriative or anything. But a lot of my Middle Eastern friends, people know I'm really close with Mina from Misfit Steakhouse or Mrs. Bakehouse. If Mina's on here, shouts to you. And we've been talking about all the different drinks that can cross culture because there's a lot of sesame and stuff. A lot of people don't realize is that the Middle East, especially for non-Middle Eastern people, is that coffee is kind of the origin. People think coffee is European. It actually came out of the Middle East. So we actually were thinking about doing some type of Turkish coffee variant, cardamom, a lot of spices. So, yeah. Uncooked boba, do not put in the fridge. Was that uncooked boba you want to leave in containers or bags? It's like pasta. Do not put your uncooked boba in fridges at all. The moisture will start making it go dissolve. Yeah. Get your fortune told. Yeah. Plushie. I don't think The plushie, I think we're gonna have to do that with Anna, because that's our marketing team, and I don't want to like. Ben and I try not to be the founders that like you know step over our team's toes on stuff like that. They have a whole plan. They have all these plushies that I think they've allocated how they're going to give them away. Sorry. Oh man, I shouldn't have mentioned the plushies. I'm just teasing. You should just be the first ones to just get those when the next contest comes. Or you can buy them online. I mean, if you really want them, they're like, I mean, to us, we get them for, to be honest, like we get them for like, I think $7, $8, $10, because we buy them direct or wholesale. But on Amazon, you can buy them for like 25. So in case your kids want them right now, like, yeah, I'm just being really honest. It's not how we make our money, so I'll just tell you how it all works. Lapsang Souchong. I was saying the Lapsang Souchong is so smoky. For those who don't know what Lapsang Souchong is, it's a South China tea that's like really smoky. I don't know why in the West we love that. It's like drinking a cigar. Sorry if you love it. I'm sorry. I'm a tea snob. Actually, if you're a tea snob, it's a tea snob drink. So I don't even know what I'm saying. It's just not for me. Lauren, reminder, ratios, latte, 4:1, 4 parts milk, 1 part coffee tea, matcha, turmeric, by the way. If you want to put turmeric latte, golden latte, and after your soul cycle, you want to, take care of your body. 4 parts milk, 1 part turmeric, 1 part matcha, 1 part hojicha. When you tea, even though it has milk in it, it's the inverse. It's 4 parts tea, 1 part milk. And yes, the black tea, if you're making a milk tea, should be brewed also 4x normal strength, because your milk is going to dilute a lot of it. Milk is mostly fat and water. So when you add milk to tea, most of the time the milk is just going to absorb the tea. So you need to overcompensate. Alyssa, the boba, there is no sugar. I mean, there's sugar there's a little bit of starch sugar. It's a carb, I guess, inside the tapioca starch, but there's no like added sugar. That I could promise you, there's none of that. There's like a little bit of like, I guess there is brown sugar. That's how it gets dark. But it's not like sitting in a coat of sugar is what I meant. It's in the starch. Anthony, can we buy boba packs like the one kid? For now, it's refill kits. I'll tell you, Ben and I are working on something with our partners at US Boba Company. We actually have to have a board meeting, I just realized soon. But that's the nerdy stuff nobody wants to know. But one of the strategies is how do we grow consumer? So the idea was that we were trying to make these packs that you guys have like be available like on Amazon. So we're thinking about putting an outer box on these because they don't travel well because they get crushed. So yes, when that happens, that's actually how we'll probably be able to sell it. Because I'm sure you guys know the shipping is we lose a lot of money on shipping. It's kind of why we have to bundle. I hope you guys just understand that. We're not at this Amazon scale where we could absorb it. I will say, in the spirit of Ichigo Ichie, once in a lifetime, I was almost like, we did a trivia night last night, and I was getting super emotional because, it's the first time we've ever done a holiday party ever where we haven't physically seen our team. And it was super weird. But even this, like, I don't know if did Ben say this in the beginning. Ben we're the 2 co-founders, and we run the company. We own 90+% of the company. We have stock with the team and some angel investors, but like, we're the only 2 board members. When the ship almost went down in the spring, people think we're big. We're big, but people forget we're big, but we did it ourselves. So we were down to it's about 2 payrolls, which is like $500,000, just so you guys understand. A payroll is like $250,000 for us. And we knew that we were in trouble. We probably knew we could probably find loans to get out of it, but we didn't know if we were going to lose half the company remember, Ben and I and our wives, we have most of it. People think we're rich. On top of that, people don't even realize Ben and I paid ourselves up until this year $65,000. There's no stock. So people have all these like rumors. That's why I hate the media. That's a whole separate thing. People make all these things up. You know, I could prove that. You guys, I'm telling you guys, I have nothing to hide here. Like it's the super fans. So that's really the case. And so when it came that close, we didn't know how we were going to make money. That's actually the truth. So we closed for a month. Some of you guys remember, and we had to lay off most of our team. In that time, we pivoted because we had to gamble. We had to guess if the pandemic was going to be long or short. That's basically what we had to guess in April. If it was long, Ben and I basically said, we're going to get all these consumer products. So we worked on, if you notice, new tea packaging. We worked on sourcing stuff from Asia. We worked on making Boba Kits. And I'm not going to lie. I'll say this. It might sound like I'm a lousy CEO or whatever, but like that pretty much saved the company. We made one whole store's profits through our e-commerce. So when Ben and I were doing this because, it's just because it's like talking to, no, it's because we're truly, 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 truly grateful. Because in April, we didn't have Boba Kits. We didn't have our upgraded tea people program. We made like $100,000 on e-commerce. That's really how much we made. And we are way beyond that. And it's because of you all. So, I mean, I hope you guys could see, that's really, really what happened. It's what we've never told the public. I've never even talked about it on a podcast. You guys know we do all these podcasts because I think it's something that we want to hold for you and the real people in the know, the ride or dies, and not this like fake news stuff that's out there. And that's really what's happened. We had to buy COVID kits. That's another one. If we didn't think the pandemic was going to last long, we weren't going to go. We were like, I think we're going to take a gamble. Let's bring COVID testing in-house. So in October, we had basically started talking to suppliers to get them in-house, which is what we're doing now, which is why we're able to shut down our stores and test everybody so quick. So yeah, really, thank you so much for like, this is a dream. This is the best way to end the year. I'm not gonna lie. This is, I mean, and then, yeah, some of you guys know we almost lost US Boba Company. We were like probably about a month away from filing Chapter 11 on that thing because it was selling to all these cafes, but all the cafes closed. So you have all this boba, you don't even know what to do. And then some of you know, we started selling those bags for a while. Right? And it was because we didn't know how to get rid of them, but we needed money too. So that's really what happened. And like, it's tough. And I think, you know, whether it's the frontline workers, we did this campaign with frontline workers, and we know a lot of these frontline workers now. Like up here, they're called Color, and then Verily, you can see online, we did some stuff, and like we talked to them, and I think people don't understand like how I don't know, how companies are absorbing it all and frontline workers are absorbing it all. And I don't think I think there are companies that exploit for sure, but I think there's a lot of small businesses out there that were never people who set out on a mission who are like, hey, I know how to make money. Let's start a restaurant that doesn't make any money. Let's start cafes. And yeah, let's, you know, like that's just not how people think, you know, especially Ben and I came from corporate. So, you know, so this is such a dream. So yeah, Ichigo, Ichie. That's kind of how I'll end my portion. Once in a lifetime. Ben, you have anything to add? Any other questions?
No, I think that this is just an awesome way to kind of end a less than stellar year. We're super thankful. I see a lot of familiar faces too, which is really, really cool. I see some old fans. I see Ada. I know Ada. I think I saw Rena too. This is really cool. It just feels like cheers. So thanks for letting us hang out with you guys. I feel like we're in each other's kitchens together, just making boba casual. But yeah, we hope you guys stay safe. It was awesome. I loved all the kids on the call too. I think that you guys are the future. Andrew and we're getting older, so I think it's gonna be. I see some future entrepreneurs in the house. I can tell already. I see a lot of these young women, so I'm excited. I think that, you know, one thing that I guess since Andrew's been doing a lot of scoops too, like one thing that we're working on in the next year too, and I guess you guys are the first to hear it, is like we want to make this kind of, we don't know what the name's called. We're trying to finalize it, but like this community market, I think that we started as a,
Oh yeah.
I saw Ada, like, you know, you were at our pop-ups when we were inside of a ramen restaurant. So you know what it was like when we were tiny and printing, like, even when we were like debating the cost of stickers, like that's how scrappy we were. And so I think that 9 years later, next year is our 10-year anniversary. And we've been getting really reminiscent of what the past was like and what it was, you know, these 10 years building up this company. And so, you know, I think that there is going to be a passing of the torch to a lot of new entrepreneurs too. And I'm super excited about that. So for us, we're trying to build kind of a market. It's probably going to live mostly online, but helping cultivate future entrepreneurs, whether it's, you know, giving them even just shelf space in our stores, and primarily targeted towards BIPOC, minority, women-owned businesses. And so if you have one, or if you have a company like that, or you know someone that could really have our support, because we are a decent channel. We have 15 locations, and so we can help with sell-through and a little bit of expertise. Send it to us. My email is bin@bobaguys, Andrew@bobaguys. Like, we answer customer service emails all the time. Anna and Monica do the bulk of it, but if you're DMing us, it's probably Andrew. If you're emailing us, it's probably me, Anna, or Monica. So we're really involved, and we want to get more involved with the community. So that's one of the big things that we're going to try to kick off next year. So if you have some good candidates, let us know. It doesn't have to be Bay Area either. Especially so if they have physical products, whether it's drink or food or soaps or anything, let us know.
Oh, this is coming too. We got a plush coming.
Oh man, you showed him. Oh yeah, we've been. That's a V2 or 3, version 2 or 3. We're getting there. You should have saw the first version. It was. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, it didn't look like an aardvark. But yeah.
It looked like a Tim Burton like rendition of an aardvark. It was very scary. This one's very cute.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks everyone. Have a great last 2 days. Take care of each other. Drink tea if you can. It'll help your health. And we'll see you around.
Cheers. See you guys in 2021. Thank you so much. We'll post the link to the video if you need to watch it. If you're joining virtually later, like, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you in 2021. Bye, guys.
Bye.